Hello dear students, I Sana Asif, Assistant Professor of English at Bhopal School of Social Sciences. As I have covered history of prose, 17th century first part in the previous lecture, and now in this lecture I'll be covering prose during Restoration, which is the second part of 17th century. So Restoration prose. With the exception of the works of Dryden and Bunyan, the prose work of the Restoration time is of little moment. Dryden's prose is almost entirely devoted to literary criticism, and Bunyan's contribution shows a remarkable development of the prose allegory. The remainder of the prose writers deal with political, historical, theological, and other miscellaneous subjects. John Dryden was born in the year 1631 and died in 1700. He is the representative writer of the Restoration age. For 40 years, he continued to produce an abundance of literary works of every kind, poems, plays, and prose works. Dryden's versatility is apparent when we observe that in prose, as well as in poetry and drama, he attains to primacy in his generation. In prose, Dryden has one rival, John Bunyan. No single item of Dryden's prose work is of very great length, but in his essay of dramatic poesy, which was written in 1668, in his numerous dedicatory epistles, are prefaces, and in scanty stock of his surviving letters, we have a prose corpus of some magnitude. The general subject of his prose work is literary criticism, and that of a sane and vigorous quality. The style free, but not too much. There are slips of grammar, but not too many. Dryden has been given the credit of inaugurating the new era of English prose. He has also been considered as the father of English prose. Now comes John Bunyan. He was born in the year 1628 and died in the year 1688. He alone contests the supremacy of Dryden in the domain of Restoration prose. His first book, Grace Abounding, which was written in the year 1666, is a spiritual autobiography dealing with the spiritual history of his birth, childhood, and youth. There is sincerity in expressions and a remarkable simplicity. The Pilgrim's Progress, which was written in the year 1678, is his masterpiece. It is an allegory which takes the form of a dream fragment. The whole book is remarkable for a powerful narrative style enriched by beauty, simplicity, and vividness of language. Bunyan was the first writer who used a very simple and appealing prose. His other famous works are The Life and the Death of Mr. Bedman, which was written in 1680, and The Holy War, which was written in 1682. Except for Grace Abounding, all Bunyan's major works are allegorical, and in each case, the allegory is worked out with ease, force, and clearness. His allegorical personages are fresh and apt, and are full of an intense interest and a raw dramatic energy. Bunyan's style is unique in prose, though it is undoubtedly based on biblical models. It is quite individual. It is homely, but not vulgar, strong, but not coarse, equable, but not monotonous. It is sometimes humorous, but it is never ribald, rarely pathetic, but never sentimental. Now comes Lord Halifax. Lord Halifax was born in the year 1633 and died in the year 1695. He ranks high as orator, as an author. His fame rests on a small volume called Miscellanies containing a number of political tracts. In his writings, Halifax adopts the manner and attitude of the typical men of the world, a moderation of statement, a cool and agreeable acid humor, and a style devoid of flourishes. The next is Sir William Temple. He was born in the year 1628 and died in the year 1699. He was an example of the moneyed, leisured semi-amateur in literature who wrote little but elegantly. His chief work were his Letters, which was written in 1700, Memoirs, which was written in 1691, and Miscellanea, a series of essays in 1680, 1690, and 1701. His style resembles that of Halifax in its mundane, cultured reticence, but sometimes he has higher flights in which he shows some skills in the handling of melodious and rhythmic prose. It was a strange coincidence that two diary writers, Samuel, was born in the year 1633 and died in 1703, and John, who was born in the year 1620 and died in 1706, were working at the same time during this period. Though the prose writers of Restoration are not great in bulk, it shows a profound change in style. Previous writers such as Browne, Clarendon, and Hobbes has done remarkable and beautiful work in prose, but their style had not yet found itself. It was wayward and erratic, often cumbrous and often obscure, and weighted with Latinized constructions and vocabulary. In Dryden's time, prose begins definitely to find its feet. It acquires a general utility and permanence. It is smoothened and straightened, simplified and harmonized. This is the age of average prose, and it prepares the way for the works of Swift and Addison. Not that Dryden's style is flawless, it is sometimes involved and obscure. There are little slips of grammar and many slips of expressions, but on the average, it is of high quality. In the case of Bunyan, the style becomes plainer still, but it is powerful and effective. Pepys and Evelyn have no pretensions to style as such, but their work is admirably expressed. In some writers of the period, we find this desire for unornamented style degenerating into coarseness and ugliness. Such a one is, first is Jeremy Collier, who was born in the year 1650 and died in 1726, whose short view of the immorality and profaneness of the English stage was written in the year 1698, caused a great commotion. Then comes Thomas Pratt, who was born in the year 1635 and died in the year 1713, wrote on the newly formed Royal Society in a close, naked, natural way of speaking. John Locke, who was born in the year 1632 and died in the year 1704, in his famous An Essay Concerning Human Understanding, which was written in the year 1690, wrote with a style bare to bold, but clear. In the next lecture, I'll be explaining you history of prose, and I'll continue with the 18th century, and in this lecture as I have covered the 17th century. Thank you. Have a great day ahead.